I'm getting close to being able to try powering this set up, but before I can, I need to do something about this. It's missing contrast and volume controls. Now, I believe a replacement has been tracked down, but that transaction is taking a long time, so what I'm going to do in the meantime is scavenge one from this Predicta tandem chassis. I think the power switch is bad, so I'll just keep my shorted out power switch in place, but transplant the rest. The tandem, they showed this resistor being across. I think it's a contrast, but I don't believe the Holiday needs it, so I'll take that out. Otherwise, I think the wiring is exactly the same, so we get a red, yellow, orange. I also have a red, yellow, orange here. And then the three inside here are the volume. Now, the problem is somebody cut the control out when they did so. I think they cut the wires a bit short, so I think I'm okay with the yellow and the orange for sure. I think the red may be a little short. I'm going to leave it the way it is now, just to tack this control in place, but I think when the real replacement shows up at me, you need to run a new wire through. I really hope this is long enough, because it's kind of specialized, a bit of coax with 3 conductors in it. I finished recapping underneath the chassis and replacing all the out-of-spec resistors. Some of these caps are just tacked in temporarily. I will be restuffing this guy. The other 2 caps, the originals, were gone, and the ones that were in here weren't quite the right value. So this guy hiding inside this heat shrink tubing, I attached with a terminal strip I had it here. There was already a hole in the chassis. I just made use of it. And I threw some heat shrink tubing around it because both legs of this have power on them. That's the guy right off of the AC line. So the negative terminal is going right to the AC, and positive feeds the rectifiers, and then the B plus for the set. So to eliminate any chance of it shorting to anything, I just took a big old chunk of heat shrink tubing, large diameter, and just slid it over there. Not shrunk down yet. I'll finalize that once the set's actually working. Same with these guys that are just flopping around. For the others, I actually found some really convenient unused terminals on the existing terminal strips. For example, this guy right here, there had been a wire going from here over to the cap over here. Well, what the heck, there's a ground lug right here, so I just put the cap right in here. Worked out great. Alright, so I'm now going to check the tubes and then get set up for doing a full power-up test. Before I do a full power-up test, I figured it would be a good idea to test the tubes, and so far most of them have tested good. However, the 10DE7 had a whole bunch of shorts, and right now I'm testing 5X8, goes in the tuner, and same deal, shorts, 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 so it's definitely got to go. Alright, got all the tubes installed, got my replacement control, threw on the channel knob, fine tuning knob, attached a temporary test speaker, and I have installed fusible resistor. So no picture tube, no yoke, so we're not going to get any picture, obviously no high voltage, but should be able to get some sound. And and check the B plus. So I've got my voltmeter right on the output of the voltage doubler, basically across this cap that's mounted up here. So let's give this a shot. Not what I was expecting. It was only about 60 volts. It should be more like 300. Let me double check Variac. And I got the output on 117. Check the current draw. Pretty steep, about 3 amps. That's a little high. Like double what it should be. So something's not right. Ooh, the fusible resistor is quite toasty. Something's drawing too much current. Well now, so what could it be? Well, one thing I can do is just feel around to see what's hot. I can also start disconnecting parts of the circuit to isolate them. So for example, I can disconnect, say, the output of the choke here so that there's no power going to the rest of the set, and just make sure we got good power going here. Alright, the output of the filter choke is the orange wire going right to this lug. There was a choke connecting to that lug and this red wire disconnected both of those, so this is isolated. Nothing else going to this. This is the output after the rectifiers and the filtering. So we're looking at this point right here, which is the 280, there we go, 280 volt source for the set. So if I check this and it's 280 volts plus, I expect it'll be a bit high because there's no load on it. That means the rectifiers are probably okay, and filter caps, and that there's something drawing too much current downstream. Now I powered this up a couple more times after I stopped recording, and there's nothing getting warm, nothing smoking. So I'm not sure what could be drawing excess power. The only thing that was getting a bit toasty was the fusible resistor. Now, of course, it wasn't a dead short. I got 75 volts. So about 3/4 of the power was being siphoned off somewhere, somehow. Alright, so let's hook this back up to AC power, and here we go. 76. Huh. I was not expecting that. But that is actually a pretty good sign. Well, I mean, potentially a good sign, because that may very well mean that everything else is fine, and that the problem is somewhere right over here. So it could just be a bad, fried, leaky rectifier. Because imagine like this guy right here. This is going right after fusible resistor through this 150 microfarad cap, and it's going between ground and this tie point. If that diode is fried and it's conducting, going the wrong way, that's going to pull it back. I'm going to leave this running a little bit longer and then see if that rectifier assembly is getting toasty. The power's got to be going somewhere. Oh, and speaking of that, notice I still have about 70 volts. That's curious too. Well, it's not curious, it's because I have no output here. So this cap charged up and it's got nowhere to go. Which means this diode is very likely working, because otherwise the capacitor would discharge back through the filter choke and down through this diode M2. So I think M1 may very well be okay, but M2 I think may be shorted, or at least partially shorted. Alright, I'll turn this back on for a while. Well, I had my other holiday set, I replaced that before I even bothered trying to power the set up. Alright, that should be enough. No, not really that I could feel. Well, there's one other possibility. I suppose that this cap is bad. That's brand new cap. That's the one right up front here, C1. But I think it's far more likely, since this, I know the set's been tinkered with and had some other issues, that the problem lies with these rectifiers. I've got my meter in diode mode, and I'm going to check this side. So these three lugs up here represent 3 shown inside the dashed lines here. The center one is ground. It's this guy. And on this side is the common between the two that's going to C1. So I unsoldered the wire that was going to that. Let's check this out. It should be infinite in one way, and the other way should show like around 0.6 to 0.8 volts. Okay. Check the other way. That's weird. I'll pull out a modern silicon diode 1N4007 and show you how it tests for comparison. So there's a forward drop, 0.55. And the other way, infinite. So check this guy again. So it's just not conducting that way, so that's good. I kind of thought it would be. And the other way, now that is low, 0.1. So it would be a bit more like half a volt. Now let's check the other side. I think would be this way. And this one I still have not completely disconnected from the circuit, so it's not exactly a fair test. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to remove components. Now there's also possible this cap could be bad as well. So I'm going to clean off everything from these leads and check this more thoroughly. It turned out that both diodes measure infinite in one direction and 0.1 in the other. So I still think that's a little suspicious. So what I did is just temporarily tacked in a couple 1N4007 silicon diodes, and I double checked all the wiring. This is going to the 150 microfarad cap from the AC. That's one that was going over here. That's the point labeled AC on this old rectifier. Center ground, that's for the one diode going to ground. And here's the other one feeding B plus to the set. Filter choke is still out of the set, so if this doesn't work, then I gotta start thinking about either the new caps are bad or there's something wrong with the filter choke. Alright, so what I'm going to do is plug the set back into AC, and here we go. 307 volts, exactly what I was hoping to see. Alright, it was the diodes. Little annoyed because my diode test function showed them what you might consider to be good. Infinite resistance in one direction, low in the other. That's kind of your definition of a rectifier there. So whatever voltages or however this is testing it, it's not picking them up as being bad. Alright, now since I have no load on this set, you might notice there's some voltage here that's slowly going down, so I better grab a high, well, moderately valued resistor, say like 100K or something, and jumper that out to drain off that charge. I don't want to get shocked. Something I've seen people ask me is like, well, how do you discharge the B plus or know when it's safe to touch the set? Well, typically when the set's more or less working, B plus drains off real fast because the tubes are conducting. But when you got something like this, not so much. No, there's no spark. That's why I use the 100K resistor. And if I put this back up now, still got 180 volts. So I'll just keep draining that off. Or yeah, you could just do that. And your cap probably will be okay, but obviously it's a little more jarring to short out the cap like that. I reconnected the filter choke to the rest of the set, so I'm going to try that full power up again. And this time I move the voltmeter a little bit further downstream. We should get about 260 volts where I've got it attached right now. Just need to reconnect the power cord. Okay, here we go. Cool. And it should drop once the tubes start conducting. Yeah, I can hear something coming out of the speaker. A little hum. About 260. I hear something ringing like the voltage oscillator's running. Good sign, crackling. I'm going to turn the... Alright.
He did something amazing. I will compare Roger Staubach all night with just I remember the play where he
volume control's not really working right. It's like goes from nothing to full volume. But
when you talk about money,
remember, this is one salvage from another set.
I love Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer's been good to me, fans, but he did not win the Super Bowl because Trent quarterback. Not a Raven.
The local distance.
Lewis and Reed and an
worry about that later. Alright, cool. So everything seems stable. Yeah, this voltage is a little bit lower than they said, but let's see, what have I got this thing running at? I only got it running at 112 volts right now, so I'll turn this up a little. 251, closer to 260 for me. Alright. So the next thing to do is to...
Not to take anything away from Tom Brady.
right, and again,
pull the CRT head unit off my other Holiday set, prop it up here on the workbench, plug it in, and see if we can get a picture. Oh, something else. I was talking earlier about discharging the B+. Well, now that the set's more or less working, note when I turn it off how quickly this will drop off. So tubes are warmed up, they're conducting at about 250. Turn the set off now. About 5 seconds, it's basically discharged. And it'd be safe to poke around in the circuitry. And here it is. I pulled this off of my Holiday set, ran the cables. So high voltage lead is the biggest pain, so you got to pull out the rectifier tube, thread through the hole, and get it down in there. Another tube plug in here, and then the video signal plugs in here. And here we go. Current draw is fine, less than an amp. Got filament continuity, pilot lights are on. Tubes are starting to conduct. The current draw is going up. Get some sound. Adjusting the controls. Right, there's the brightness. Hey, about that. Some nice dirty controls. Horizontal hold. There's another Predicta tuning. It's just a horizontal hold. The yoke can kind of freak out. With a zigzag going on. I think the high voltage is a bit low because it's not a very bright image. I know this is a good 21 FDP for picture tube. Alright, fantastic. So now I'm going to hook up actual real signal better than this weak over the air thing and see if we can get an image. Okay, hooked up a signal. Channel 3, so 6, 5, 4, 3. Trying to see something. Just in the vertical hold.
Kevin James is America's favorite lover boy.
You gotta stay in the mood. Hey, it's all coming back.
The hold's a bit twitchy.
King of Queens.
You were a real tiger.
Adjusting the local distance, which is better in this position. Alright, vertical linearity is complete crap. Turn the brightness down a bit. Well, that's not too bad. Not too bad for a first part. Adjusting the contrast. Alright, vertical linearity is horrible. I need a little screwdriver to fix that.
It's a good start.
Not funny.
Hey, you know he's only joking.
You're 6'3".
So the volume control is working. It's just that it's almost acting like it should be logarithmic and this is linear or something. It kind of goes from nothing to volume. And anyways, so hoping to get a better replacement control. Anyways, all right. So now about that linearity.
I don't have time. The medical journal says a man's best years are between 19 and 25. Right now, I have my peak physically.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Hey, Ray, forget about Murphy. What about Nurse Anderson?
She's built like a brick hospital.
Oh, what about Nurse Jacobs? She's offered her body to science. Time and time again.
One of the controls was completely rotated into one extreme.
Murphy, we just need a little favor.
Why didn't you say so? The answer's no.
That's better.
We need to borrow your body for an evening. And your heart doesn't have to be in it. Is that unreasonable? I wish somebody'd make me that offer. We have this terrific friend who's really anxious to go out with you. He's sort of a shy, Gary Cooperish type. Well, he's a little more ish than Cooper. He's really bright in the head where that kind of thing counts. Warren, excitingly average. Okay. Better turn down to that.
I spent some time adjusting the controls and things are looking fairly good, but a few issues. Basically all to do with the vertical, which is a common problem with these sets. So for one, vertical hold. Oops, horizontal hold. Vertical hold is twitchy. I'm just turning the controls just a little bit off center one way and the other way. Other issue is that the height is maxed out, which is the inner control and the topmost control. So it's fully counterclockwise. If I go clockwise a little bit, one, we lose sync, but that's a common issue. But two, it doesn't fill screen anymore. So I'm checking the boost voltage right now, and I got a 405. And on the Philco schematic, it says 400. So that seems to be okay. However, I think the SAMS shows it as being a little bit higher. Yeah, they show it 435. They also show the power supply at 280, whereas the SAMS says, the Philco is 275, and I know I've got more like 255. So who do you believe? I don't know. Otherwise, this seems to be working fairly well. So one quick thing I want to try is to swap out some of the tubes. So we got a 9BR7, that is a sync separator. So I'll definitely try that one first. And then I'll try the 10DE7 vertical oscillator, vertical output tube. I just went ahead and swapped out both tubes. If things are better, okay, they're definitely not better. Well, there we go. That was weird. Oh, you know, I bet it's because the other tubes were warmed up and the vertical tubes were not. So the screen lit up and I had no vertical. For a second I thought the vertical oscillator was dead and I was reaching to turn the set off. Well, it's definitely different now. But the vertical hold is just as touchy. However, I've got more height. Boost voltage is about the same though. So I'm actually backing off the height control a bit now. And the screen is still just about filled. I'll go back a little bit more. Alright, so which of those tubes had the effect? Well, now it's probably changing two tubes at once. I don't know which one had the effect. I suspect it's a vertical output tube, but I'll have to replace some of the original tubes back in there to see which one made the difference. Something else I changed was this guy. Two-position jumper. That's for the electrostatic focus on the CRT. As usual, doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference one way or the other. I figured it was worth a try. Now, and you may have noticed this. Of course, after I put this back together, it was looking fine. Then when I removed it and brought it over to my workbench, I must have jarred a bit of crud loose inside. So now I've got a bit of junk stuck on the inside of the plastic. So I'll take this cover off yet again to get that out. I'm not sure what to say about the vertical. I mean, obviously it's solid. It's just a little touchy. But once you turn the set on, you may need to adjust it to get the set to lock in. But it seems like once it's warmed up and it's locked, it stays locked. Try changing the channel and then coming back. Yeah, it's all right. Maybe not. Tuner's definitely dirty. Just in fine tuning. I'll try shooting some contact cleaner into the tuner as best I can. Smell a little ozone, maybe you can hear that crackling. Oh, that crackling's coming out of the speaker. Okay, but I think it's picking up actually some arcing down in there. The coating is definitely flying off the flyback. I'm catching very faint whiffs of ozone, so that will definitely be something I need to do, is recoat that flyback. So what am I going to do next? Well, I'm going to tidy things up for sure. Like I can't leave these diodes floating in the air like that. and I'm waiting on the replacement control to show up and high voltage cover. So I'll do what I can, but I think what's going to happen is I'll do as much as I can, but I'm going to probably end up having to shelve this for a few days or maybe longer while waiting for those replacement parts to show up. So I think what I may do is finish off my holiday. So you may recall, I restored this chassis some time ago, and it's working all right. I just never completely finished off the project. Really not much left to do on this except maybe an alignment, and I'll double check the tubes again. And I think I want to tweak that picture. I noticed the picture was a little bit crooked inside that housing, a little off center. And that leaves the cabinet, which I was going to start working on in the fall, but then weather got cold and it just never happened. In case you were wondering about the tubes, I put the original 9BR7 back in, and I still have full height, so it's definitely the 10DE7 vertical oscillator and output tube that was the culprit. Alright, so I think I will finish off the video here and pick back up hopefully when the replacement parts show up.
I thought I recognized you and I was right. I found the whole story right in here. Name, picture, everything right there. What are you going to do? Told him. Going to visit the marshal. Won't he be surprised to find out you're really a horse doctor instead of MD? Go what? No crime against a man doctoring horses, is it? Seems I have heard it's a crime to go around poisoning people. I didn't do it. Man came to me with an old horse. He wanted some stuff to put it out of its misery. How do I know his old grandpop was going to drink it by mistake? Don't ask me. Ask Marshall. How much you figure the marshal pay you for that newspaper? Nothing, I suppose. Then why don't you sell it to me? That's better. You and I will make a little deal between us.